Hello. This is Paulo Arias with International Relocation Partner, and this is the Expat Community podcast. With me, every Friday, we are doing free Spanish classes. Free Spanish classes. Our Professor Wagner is here from We Speak Spanish, founder of We Speak Spanish. This is a language school who are looking to connect with the expat community, people who are looking to move to Costa Rica or to Mexico or other countries in Latin America. We believe that it's highly important if you're going to move abroad to a country that speaks Spanish, that you learn the local language and that you connect with others. So I think a lot of people is missing out if they don't learn the local language. There's a lot of things you could do. You can negotiate things better. You can find friends, connect with people. You can perhaps go to church and understand, or go to a non-profit and help. There's a lot of things you can do by learning the local language. Warner, say hi.
Hey,
Introduce yourself a
hola.
little bit. Let's start.
Hola, hola, Pablo. Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo estás? Hey,
Doing
Pablo.
amazing.
¿Estás de cumpleaños? Today is your birthday?
Today is my birthday.
Hey, felicidades. So that is how we say congratulations. Felicidades.
Felicidades. Gracias, gracias. Hoy el día de hoy es mi cumpleaños. Today is my birthday. Um, really happy. 42 years old. I don't look old. I look young. I feel
Oh,
fresh. Feel good.
you looks like a 32 years old.
Well, I feel good. I feel good. I don't have
No,
nothing
no.
to complain. We're doing good. I mean, I'm surprised the amount of people, like friends, customers from the expat community, Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, that reach out, WhatsApp to my personal WhatsApp. Paulo, happy birthday. What are you doing today? Things like that. So I'm so happy.
Everybody can practice today about that. Instead to say happy birthday, you can say feliz cumpleaños en español. Feliz cumpleaños.
Okay, well, let's start. If anybody that is connecting is listening, we're sharing this to other expat groups, uh, to theexpatcommunity.com, or Costa Rica, the expat community, Mexico, the expat community. So we're sharing this. So if you're here, say hi, introduce yourself, say, hey, Paolo, what is it that you're doing there? And just comment, be part of the class. We're doing this live. We're hoping to make it interactive. So say hi, introduce yourself. You can use the comment box and just type whatever you want. Let us know that you're here, where you're coming from. You're in Mexico, you're in Costa Rica or Spain. Just let us know where you are. We want to feel you. And let's continue with the class.
Perfect, Pablo. Perfect. Today we have a very important topic. So about one of the particles that we use when we speak Spanish. Of course, for me, this is the most important particle when we start to learn Spanish. Okay, let me introduce what we are going to talk about today. So let me share my screen. Okay. Today
Right.
we will talk about what is the verb. So remember, when we are learning a new language, sometimes it's difficult because you need to learn many new things, but also sometimes it's a little bit difficult because sometimes we don't understand our own language. So I am completely sure, Pablo, that all the expats they use English perfectly. But if we ask them about what is a verb, what is an adjective, what is a noun, I am completely sure that they use these particles perfectly, but they don't know how to explain that. And this
Mm.
and this is how I like to start my Spanish programs, because when you understand these particles in English, it will be easy to understand it in Spanish. If you teach this in Spanish, but you don't understand how works these particles in English, sometimes it is a little bit difficult. So to understand these particles. And today, uh, what we will talk is about the verb. If you understand how works the verb in English, you will understand how works the verb in Spanish. Okay, so this is the main question today. What is a verb? ¿Qué es un verbo? What is a verb? Pablo, in only one word. So we don't need to answer this question. We don't need 20 words. We need only one. Tell me,
Mhm.
tell me for you what it's a verb.
A verb is, to me, a verb is a word that describes action. That's to me. I don't know, or maybe
Ex-
just action.
exactly. That is the only word that you need to know to describe what it's a verb. So one verb, it's one action. So es una acción. The next question is, Pablo, how many actions during the day do you do you do? So how many actions? And this is not talking about the language, if in English or in Spanish. No, how many actions during the day? Five
I don't
actions,
know.
six actions, 10 actions,
Thousands. Mm.
thousands of
Thousands.
actions. Exactly. That is why this is the main reason why the verb, or why I consider that the verb is the most important part in the language, because our life it's full of verbs. So to wake up, to sleep, to walk, to work, to eat, to cook, to study, to pay, to buy, to run. So thousands of actions. Pablo,
Hmm.
how many verbs do we have in Spanish?
I don't know.
How
I don't
many
know.
verbs? Hey, if you are connected with us and you know the answer, send me the answer in the chat. How many verbs do we have in Spanish?
I
But
do
but
not
don't
know.
don't Google it. Don't Google it. Yeah.
No, you can't do that. Nobody
Okay.
knows this. Nobody knows this. Maybe just Google.
In Spanish, we have 15,000 verbs. And every day we have a new verb because that is the evolution of the language. Yeah, when we speak the Spanglish and the uses of some verbs in English, plus the half of the verb in English and the other half in Spanish. And after, because many people use the same verb. So that is how is the creation of verbs. But basically, in Spanish, we have 15,000 verbs. Pablo, how many
Fifteen
verbs?
thousand.
15,000. How many verbs do we have in English?
I don't know.
In English, we have 25,000 verbs. So there's more verbs in English than in Spanish. Okay? But between verbs in English and between verbs in Spanish, we have some very important differences that we need to know if you want to use them correctly when you are learning Spanish. Okay? Today, today we will start to talk about the verbs. So we will learn some basic concepts. So today we will study some important concepts that the students they need to know when they are starting to learn the language. So this is our first concept. What is a verb? The only thing that I want that you learn is one verb, it's one action. And we use a lot of actions during the day. The next concept that I want to teach you is ¿qué es un verbo infinitivo? What is an
What's
infinitive verb? Yeah, let me go here. What is an infinitive verb? What is an infinitive? What is an infinitive verb? Okay, what is an infinitive verb? Okay, the answer of this question is el verbo infinitivo es el verbo original o la forma básica del verbo. The infinitive verb is the basic form of the verb. It's the original form of the verb. Okay, Wagner, I understand what you are telling me, but still I don't know what is an infinitive verb because I don't know what is the
Can
original
you give
verb.
an example,
Yes,
Warner? What would be like? What would
exactly.
be infinity
Exactly.
versus
Exactly. So, but let me put here the infinitive verb is the basic form of the verb. Okay, how can we identify if the verb is infinitive? Okay, because in English it's one form, but in Spanish we have another form. Okay, Wagner, what is an infinitive verb in English? Let me give you some examples. When you see the verb in this form, to walk, this is an infinitive verb. When you see the verb in this form, to eat, this is an infinitive verb. If you see the verb in this form, to open, these three verbs, they are the basic form of the verb. They are in the infinitive form of the verb. And see this detail. Okay, Wagner, so walking. Well, walking is one verb, but this is not the infinitive form of the verb. Okay, Wagner, to eat, I eat. Well, you are using the verb, but this is not the infinitive form of the verb because the infinitive form of the verb is when you see the form to eat. Okay? Okay. This is how we identify in English that the verb is infinitive. The use of to. The use of to. Okay? Okay, how is this in Spanish? In Spanish, we don't use this to. However, we can identify our infinitive verbs with the ending of the verb. Okay, what is the meaning of to walk in Spanish? To walk in Spanish is caminar.
to walk?
To walk is caminar. To eat, to eat
To eat.
is, in Spanish is comer. To open in English and in Spanish is
To open, abrir,
abrir. Okay.
abrir.
To walk in English, caminar in Spanish. To eat in English, comer in Spanish. To open in English, abrir in Spanish. These are our infinitive verbs in Spanish. But the difference is that in our case in Spanish, we need three different endings. AR ending, ER ending, and IR ending. This is how we can identify our infinitive verbs. So one more time. In English, the infinitive verb is when you see the form to walk. In Spanish, caminar, to eat, comer, to open, abrir.
And that's basic,
This is
right?
the basic form of the verb.
But I need to know what is the infinity.
The infinitive, this is the infinitive form of the verb.
Okay, that's
So
it. Okay,
if,
infinity is the basic. Okay, I got it. I'm
exactly.
sorry.
The infinitive verb is when the verb is in his basic form. That's it. Okay.
Right.
If you want to learn all the infinitive verbs in my website, here in my website in student resources, you can go through all the student resources, study our verbs, all the verbs that you can read here, they are in the infinitive form of the verb. Caminar, explicar, pagar,
Okay. Ajá.
correr, abrir, compartir. All these verbs, they are in the infinitive form. Okay? Well, but now I want to give you more examples. For example, to buy, see, this is the infinitive form. To sell, this is the infinitive form. To rent, this is the infinitive form. And if you see, these are verbs that we use every day: to buy, to sell, to rent. En Spanish, comprar, vender, comprar, up, vender, and alquilar. Okay, Wagner, but I have a question. What about if we found, or if we see this following word? Olor. It's olor a verb?
No.
No. But sometimes the students, they say that yes, olor it's a verb. And I ask them, why do you think that the word olor in Spanish it's a verb? Wagner, because all the infinitive verbs in Spanish ends with R. And I need to say that that is correct, because all our infinitive verbs, they ends with R. However, we need to pay attention to the vowels, to the ending, because here it's A, here is
R.
E,
Here.
R, and ir. But here we have or. So in this case, it's correct, ends with R, but not with O. So this, it's, in this case, this is a noun, is not a verb. Okay? For example, one more example, dolor. Dolor is also a word that ends with R, but in this case, this is not a verb. If not, it's a noun. Dolor, it's pain. Olor, it's smell. Okay? Entonces, it's important. It's very, very important to know this. Also, if ends with UR, one more time, that is not a verb, because the ending is not one of these three endings. Okay? So this is the definition of infinitive verb. Okay. The next concept that I want that the students they learn is ¿qué es un verbo conjugado? What
What's
is
a conjugated verb?
exactly what
Right?
is a conjugated verb?
Verb.
Exactly. What is a conjugated verb? Okay. Well, I need to say that the conjugated verb, it's when we modify the original form of the verb. It's when we modify the original form of the verb. Okay. Es cuando modificamos la forma original del verbo. Okay, es cuando nosotros, when we modify the original form of the verb. Today, we are not going to learn how to modify the original verb. However, we will see some examples that how is the verb conjugated. Okay, remember here, we say to walk, to eat, to open, to buy, to sell. Remember, this is the verb in the infinitive form. But now, if I say, I walk, if I say, you buy, if you say, she studies, or she runs, or if we say we rent, or if we say they they uh, they arrived. Even we can conjugate it in the past. Because we are modifying the original, form of the
Mm.
verb. Yeah. He cooks.
So to make it easier to understand, and I'm just assuming here because I don't.
Tell
So
me, tell
anytime
me, tell me.
the basic and infinitive verb is just the plain verb,
The plain verb.
and the verb that is conjugated is when you add something to it. She runs. We rent. So that verb gets a conjugation, gets mixed, or gets put together with other
Ex-
words to create more context or to build the sentence.
Exactly, exactly.
Got it.
Let me put it here. To walk infinitive. But if you say I walk, this is now one verb conjugated. And here is the question. So this is exactly the question. Okay, what is the information? What is the information that I need to modify the original form of the verb? So for example, in this example, Pablo, so the original is to walk, but I put here, I walked. What do you think is the information that I use to modify this verb? Basically, two things. Who's
Who is
doing
doing?
who's doing the action, and
Who and when?
who and when
Yeah.
exactly.
Ah, Rod has
Exactly.
it there. The time.
Bien.
Who
Bien.
and when? The timing. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
There you
That
go,
is
Rod.
that is the information that we should know if we want to conjugate a verb. Then remember, to walk, that is the original. Is not present. Is not past. Is not future. It's the form, the verb in the form, in the original form. But if you say now, I walk, who's doing the action?
I, myself, person,
When
right?
he's doing the action? In the present. When you
Present,
say
yeah.
I walk,
Time.
that is present. So entonces see this, the two elements, who is doing the action? I. And when the action is happening? In the present. That's why the combination of these two elements is the information that I need to conjugate the verb. So entonces I am in the present. That's why the conjugation is I walk. But now imagine that now that is exactly the same person, but the person is doing the action in the past. So the conjugation is different. In that case, it will be I walked. Okay? I walked. And even the same person, the same action, but now in the future. What is going to be that? I will
Walk.
walk.
I hear you.
I will walk. Okay. Now, the same example, but in Spanish. Remember this. To walk, it's caminar. If you want to say I walk in Spanish, you need to say yo camino. Yo camino. If you want to say I walked, we need to say yo caminé. And if you want to say I will walk, we need to say yo caminaré. Okay? So these examples in the right side are examples where we are using verbs conjugated. Remember, it's when after we modify the original form of the verb. How we can do that? That is something that we will learn in our next sessions. Okay? So remember
So,
now, tell me.
go back down. So now I understand better because oftentimes we just speak. I mean, I just speak Spanish or I just speak English, and I just because I'm just used to, and I'm not really paying attention of what are the structure of the word. And I just show us there is a basic word, basic verb, which is infinity or the very root of the verb. And then
Uh-huh.
when we mix it with other things, and this is the structure, when we mix it with I or he or she, or we also add the timing, then we have a structure, right? And in this example, now we understand uh, how to say it in English and then how to say it in Spanish. And in Spanish, we also have kind of like the same structures. It's very similar structure on this example because we also put I, yo camino, then or
Exactly.
yo caminé, which that's past tense or past for to walk or caminé,
Uh-huh.
caminar,
Camine, exactly.
or yo caminaré, so I will walk.
Exactly.
So it's easier to understand when you understand the context and you understand how the structure works.
Exactly, exactly. We will talk with more details in our next session about, well, so eh, more about these two elements, who is doing the action and when the action is happening, because also here we have some differences. uh, because normally when we ask to the students, do you conjugate verbs in English, they say no, we never conjugate verbs in English. But they do, but they don't know. They normally conjugate verbs, but they think that they don't conjugate verbs. So we will see that, because that is very, very important. Today, we will go deep in our next session, but today the idea was to see these small concepts. So, what is an infinitive verb? The basic form of the verb. What is a conjugated verb? Remember, it's when we modify that infinitive verb. How we can do that? You know now a little bit about how you can do that, but we will talk more about this in our next session. Okay. Before to go, I have two more concepts. One is, ¿qué es un verbo regular? What is a regular verb?
Mhm.
¿Qué es? What is a regular verb? And the second question is, what is an irregular verb? ¿Qué es? ¿Qué es un verbo regular? What is a regular verb? ¿Qué es un verbo irregular? What is an irregular verb? Okay, we will talk more about this in our next sessions, but let me tell you that the regular verb, it's when we see a verb. Let me give you this example. When we see a verb, for example, the verbo caminar, what is the ending, Pablo? What is the ending of the verbo caminar?
AR,
AR,
caminar.
exactly. This is the ending. But now you can see in two different colors the two parts of our verbs, because we have camin, that we will call that camin, it's the root of the verb, and we have AR, that now you know that AR is the ending. So all our verbs, they have root and they have ending. They have a root and they have an ending. With the verbo to walk, with the verbo caminar, okay, here you can identify in black the root and in pink the ending.
Hmm.
Okay, why this is important? This is important because that is exactly the definition of regular verb. The regular verb is all the verbs that when we modify them, we never change the root. So the root in the process of conjugation, they will use, or we will use, exactly the same root. Next week we will see more examples about this. Entonces, the regular verb is when we use the same root in all the conjugations. When we use the same root in all the conjugations. Okay? Okay, and now, so Wagner, what is in that case the irregular verb? So I need to say that the irregular verb is when we modify both. So we should modify the root and we should modify the ending. Okay? We modify the root and we modify the ending. For example, the verbo with the one verb that is very, very regular is the verbo ser.
To
The,
be.
the verbo ser, to be, exactly. Why this is very irregular verb? Because when we conjugate this verb, so Pablo, in this case, what is the root of the verbo ser?
Ser. No. That's it.
What is the root? The root is only the s, because
Mm.
the
Oh.
er is the ending. Yeah, it says if you see the verbo ser, the root is only the s and the ending it's er. So if we consider that this verb is regular, all the conjugation should start with the s, but that is not true. Why? Because now I am going to give you the conjugations. I am, yo soy. Well, in this case, we are using the root. But if we go to the other conjugation, you are, even see that why it's very regular, because it starts with e and not with s. So that is why this verb it's an irregular
Yes, will
verb.
disappear basically. So
Exactly. The s disappear. Exactly. With he is, we will say el es. One more time, the s disappear. We are, somos. Well, in this case, yes, we have the s, but because we have two different conjugations where we not use the s, we should consider that this verb it is irregular. Okay, Pablo. So
okay.
today I want that you know about these four concepts. However, in our next session, we will study more details about how conjugate verbs, how to conjugate the verbs in Spanish in the present, because also the way to conjugate the verbs in the past is different, and how to conjugate the verbs in the future it's also different. Next week we will study conjugation of verbs in the present tense with regular verbs. If you have problems conjugating verbs, next class is your class. So we want that you come to the session and participate with us. Okay, Pablo?
That's amazing. So thank you so much for the class today. To everyone out there who has been following up this class, we are doing this every Friday. This is the Expat Community. The Expat Community has a website. It's here at the bottom of the screen, where we share local news translated into English. We share this type of content. We have people. We're trying to help people move abroad. They're moving to countries like Costa Rica or Panama or Mexico. Thank you so much for being part of this effort. We'll see you next Friday.
And Rob, thank you, Rob.
And thank you, Rob, for
He was
being
in
part
Panama.
of
He's in Panama.
for being part of our class of today. See
Thank
you.
you. Bye, bye, bye.